should say REC.
Welcome everyone back to the Tanya class.
Hey, it's good.
We got Scott's back with us.
Great.
Yes.
Good. The weather. Happy to be back. Yeah, the weather. It's going to be that way for at least 5-6 months, I'm sure.
Are you putting?
Yeah, we just started. You didn't miss anything. If you were worried.
I was keeping up by reading.
That's good. No, I was talking to him actually.
I think that's
So we're studying chapter 39, which is actually beginning of a new topic within the Tanya. It's called the long short way. Earlier on, the first half of the Tanya, I guess we divide the Tanya into 3 parts. The first part describes the souls, and the struggle of the souls. The second part, which is the long short way, gives us damage control, different methods how to get in control of ourselves. And the third part, which is what we're beginning now, which is going to go, you could, in a sense, till the end of the Tanya, or is till the end of the first part of the Tanya, discusses the long short way, which is the harder way, but how a person could really change his character. When a person focuses on greater things and more sublime things, automatically he less has to deal with that struggle. The struggle becomes a different kind. Instead of between good and bad, it's between good and better. So, chapter 39, actually in the middle of chapter 38, we began to discuss, after we spoke about how important the deed is the main thing, because really to connect to God, the greatest tzaddik and the simplest person don't really have a connection to God's essence in understanding and in feeling. Rather, the way to really connect to Hashem is where you don't understand, which is in the action, the deed of the mitzvah. So therefore, the main thing is the deed. That's where the Beinoni, who feels a constant struggle, it doesn't matter as long as you're doing what's right. That's what really counts. However, it's very important to develop a liking and a conviction and a pleasure in practicing Judaism. Someone who doesn't enjoy what he's doing he's going to stop doing it eventually, or he's likely to. So that's the importance of the kavanah. We said a prayer without kavanah, without intent, without feeling it, is like a body without a soul. So the body is, in a sense, more important, but if the body is lifeless, then it cannot really act. Similarly, it says that the Zohar writes that when we do mitzvahs without kavanah, the mitzvahs do not go up, so to speak. When a person does mitzvahs, he has the kavanah. We spoke about different levels of kavanah. It elevates the mitzvahs. Meaning, what does that mean? The main thing, the main accomplishment of the mitzvahs is accomplished whether or not we feel and we love Hashem or not, as long as we do it. But how you experience it and how that helps you do more mitzvahs, that depends on
how it helps you develop.
Develop your character to become more mindful of Hashem, which brings you to do more mitzvahs and do mitzvahs in a better way. That has to do with your kavanah. Kavanah is a general name which includes ava and yira, love and awe of Hashem, which are two driving forces of what causes us to serve God. Someone who loves God does mitzvahs. Someone who fears God refrains from doing aveiros, from sinning. We spoke about different levels. That was the first half of the chapter. At the end of last chapter also, we said there's 4 worlds. The highest world, Atzilus, is the world which is godly. But below that you have 3 levels of angels and souls, which are spiritual beings. There's the world of Bria, which is the idea of intellectual grasp of God, which leads, when a person has an understanding, it leads to his emotion, to his feelings, which is the world of Yitzira. And there's the lowest level, the world of Asiyah, the world of action. And someone does mitzvahs with a very basic kavanah. In other words, it's not that he doesn't feel and understand, but he knows, he's aware that he's doing an act which is connecting him to Hashem, so it's like wings. The Zohar says, love and fear are like wings, they elevate your mitzvahs to the lowest world. Someone does more, he works, so that's going to be the rest of the from chapter 41 till 49. He's going to discuss different ways and methods to create these emotions. So he has that what's called the natural love and fear to God, which every Jew has, and that's why it's called an animalistic love and fear. That's why angels are also called animals and beasts. We were seeing the davening, the Chayes HaKodesh, the holy beasts. In general, angels are called beasts, most angels, not because they're destructive, because they're natural. Whatever they do is their nature. The angel of death has no choice but to do his mission, and the angel of life has no choice but to do his mission. Therefore, wherever they were created, that's where they stay.
They're simple in a way, just what they do.
They're programmed.
Program.
They're created. They never lose. They never go down of the level. They never rise. They never go higher. And that's called serving God like an animal, meaning you have life, you have a lot of excitement. The animal, unlike a plant, has a lot of excitement. It's very, very active, but it's active in a specific field, the way it was created. And the same thing, a Jew has a natural love to God, which is part of his soul. And our work down here, we ask if I have a natural love, why don't I feel it? The reason why you don't feel that natural love is because you have another soul which pulls you the other way. And your choice over here is, should I follow my animal soul or my animalistic love to Hashem, if we call it so. And that you have to make the choice. You have to uncover that natural love, but you don't have to create it. You have to just uncover it. And therefore, if someone serves God with that type of love, or it brings up his mitzvahs to a higher level, meaning he could experience the spiritual joy and conviction in doing that mitzvah in a higher level. And later on in the afterlife, a person is rewarded. He's in Gan Eden. Yeah, on that level, meaning it says lucky is someone who comes to here to the next world with his study in his hand. Because in Gan Eden, what happens is when a soul goes up high after 120 years, it cannot accomplish more. What it gets to do is it gets to reap the fruits of what it accomplished in this world. Whatever you did, you realize how much more it was than what you were aware of when you did it down here. And whatever you studied down here, you study the same topics but in a much deeper and greater way. That's what it means. It says that the tzaddikim sit in Gan Eden and they enjoy the glory, the shine of the Shekhinah. You just feel great pleasure in all the good things that you did when you were alive. And there's another concept that relatives and friends that do mitzvahs, they help the neshama actually go higher, because the neshama cannot go higher on its own once it's up there. And there's a higher form of love, which is intellectual love, a person creates this love within himself. He doesn't rely just on his natural love, and these topics I'm saying them in short. Each one discussed over the next few chapters. He doesn't rely on that natural love and uncovering that. That's not enough. He wants to also act human, meaning use his freedom of choice, not just to tap into what's already there, but to create, to rise even greater, to go beyond his nature, which is a good nature, but beyond that. And that means to create, to contemplate into God's greatness, and to create a new feeling of love and fear to Hashem. And that brings up your mitzvahs to the world of Bria. We also learned that there are some angels, although that they're the exception, that also have an intellectual feeling of love to God. So one more point before we go on to the more practical side of this chapter are 2 points. Firstly, the author makes a clarification. Do not think that when we say that mitzvahs that are done with this type of love, or the higher type of love, they go up to this world, to the world of Yetzirah, to the world of Bria, to the world... Don't think that refers to the mitzvahs themselves. The mitzvahs themselves are, and the Torah itself that we study and the mitzvahs that we do, they're godly. And that means that the mitzvahs and the Torah that we do, they actually go up to Atzilus. Since their godliness. When we study Torah, our mind connects to God's wisdom, not on the level of Yetzirah or Asiya or Yetzirah or Bria, but it's Atzilus. We're studying God's wisdom. When we do God's will, we're not connecting to a lower world. We're connecting to God Himself.
Is it a redemption? What's Asilut?
Atzilut means emanation. In other words, it comes to the word etzlo, near Him. It's a world which is near God, which is a godly world. Bria is a world which recognizes God. It means that it has that sense that it's not, that it's, the fact that you realize that God created you means that you're not really fully aware of the real truth, that there's nothing other than God. If I'm saying God made me, then I'm not really appreciating the ultimate truth, and it's not my fault. That's God made us in a way that we cannot rise above that unless we do mitzvahs. So when we're saying that your wings, your love and fear, bring you up to this world or to that world, it means they bring you up. What you did is atzilus, is godly. We'll use that term. How you appreciate what you did, your experience of it. If you remember, we spoke about it at length, the difference of the experience of Judaism and the actual facts on the ground, what happens when we do mitzvahs, when we do Judaism. So there's a big difference. Your experience depends on the measure of love and fear that you have. How much you appreciate that mitzvah that you did. But the mitzvah itself, you should know, is holy, is godly, and it doesn't matter a simple Jew who puts on tefillin, or Moshe Rabbeinu puts on tefillin. The difference is how much they appreciate what they did. But if we look at what they did the same mitzvah.
Much more came out of it? Like Moshe Rabbeinu putting it on?
For who? For Moshe Rabbeinu, much more came out of it. Also, Moshe Rabbeinu is not really such a good example, because Moshe Rabbeinu is someone who represents all of us.
Right.
But let's take an example of a tzaddik, who's not that level of a leader. Although every tzaddik also really influences, all Jews influence each other. There's that concept that we all are mixed in, and everything that we do helps another Jew, and it could be the other way around also, something negative. But that's in a broader sense. But in a more simple sense, the someone who studies the meanings behind the mitzvah and does them with excitement, the mitzvah is the same mitzvah. It's how much you appreciate the mitzvah. Depends on your level, on your knowledge, etc., etc. So that's one introduction. Don't make the mistake and say that some mitzvahs are in this world. Mitzvahs are in Atzilus. In other words, mitzvahs are godly, mitzvahs are divine. Mitzvahs connect you to the divine regardless of how much you love and fear God. As long as you're doing it. How much you appreciate what you yourself did. Sometimes you have people that walk around with things that they don't value, which is a pity. For a person has a pain, you have hear the stories how people have in their garages these pieces of art that are worth billions and millions of dollars, and they're not aware of it. And someone buys it in a yard sale and he becomes a millionaire. So we have to know that mitzvahs are worth a lot, and the more we learn, the more we feel it, and the more we. It's not just not only about learning. You also have to contemplate on it, focus on it till it becomes part of the way we see things. That's one point that we need to mention. Another point is a very interesting concept. It says that even souls which accomplished a lower level of love and fear, let's say the natural love and fear, which you say in Hebrew and Yiddish halavai, that means if only if we would have that level, we'd be doing great, but it's not the ultimate. So what those souls accomplish with their love and fear of Hashem, so they reach up to a certain world. Think of it like a bird. There's birds that can fly to different heights, right? Depends on different things. So there's certain levels of love and fear to Hashem bring you up to a certain height, a spiritual height. It says something interesting. It says that on Shabbos, whatever you got to, you get an automatic lift to the next world. And that's something that doesn't happen to angels. Angels, they could be loving God the same level that I'm loving God. Let's say my soul comes from the world of Bria, and let's say Yitzira, and I accomplish whatever, and I'm identical or similar to an angel of that world, because in other words, the soul. what I will do will bring me up to that level, but on Shabbos I'm gonna get this big boost, this like jetpack that's gonna lift me up.
Bonus.
A bonus. The very good. It's a good word. I'm gonna use that. The angels don't never get that bonus. In order to get a bonus, you have to earn it. And the reason why you earn the bonus and the angel does it is because you did it in this world. The angel did it in a spiritual world. For the angel to do it, it wasn't a big deal. It was doing what it does naturally. True. That's as well, although you were also doing what you do naturally. You awaken the natural love to God. But the difference was that the angel did it in an atmosphere where everyone does it. That's the thing you do. You did it. You chose to bring out that nature and not the opposite nature. That you could also follow your animal soul, which has a nature of its own. So the fact that you chose to go that direction, to follow that instinct and not the other instinct, we have these conflicting instincts in our life. For that you deserve a bonus. The bonus is that on Shabbos and Yom Tov, you go to a high level, and that's why Shabbos
temporarily.
Just for Shabbos.
Does it say? Does it say in the Chumash when God created the angels? I forget in the order.
It says on the set.
Was it
fifth
before?
day or the second
Was
day?
it before or after the?
Before man. The same day as the
Before,
birds, right?
between the birds and
Yeah, on
birds.
Thursday.
It was so the day before.
Before man. Yeah.
Was it after the?
Rabbi said that God consulted the angels and said, let us make man.
He consulted with them, but was it before or after the domestic animals and the wild animals?
No, they were on the fourth day.
Oh, they came later.
An interesting point that you're interesting that you're raising that because
We came after the
because the
domestic
birds and the fowl, the fowl and the fish,
That was the 6th day.
6th day, right?
Right.
Fowl and fish, like we said here, love and fear is compared to fowl, to birds that fly with 2 wings, which is the souls and the angels are equal in that area.
The angels have
Fowl are also connected to fish. Have a concept that fish, they're connected to their source of life, which is the way we should.
Meaning the water and
they
the
cannot
fish
leave
and
the water.
They
Right?
can't leave the water. That's their source. Right.
Right. Now, also animals cannot really leave ground, but not as a direct way. In other words, it's true that the animal will detach itself from the ground and from what grows on the ground. For too long, it'll die. But the animal won't make that connection that because I left, let's say, that monkey that the Russians sent up to the dog. What was it? The first satellite they sent the dog up.
Sputnik,
Dog,
maybe.
Sputnik, the
Dog,
Russians-
right? And it died.
Dog.
No,
Did it come back to Earth or no?
I think it
I
died.
don't know if they were planning to bring it back or not. I
did.
don't know.
Probably not. The Russians. So why would they? There's
I don't
no, there's
think-
no animal right.
I don't think they had
What's
the
the animal right
technology.
movements in Russia?
What about human rights?
I don't think they had the technology to bring it back then.
Yeah, they probably just sent it up, right?
Yeah,
So
just to test and then see how long it would live in space.
So now,
maybe.
you see,
Right.
They don't have
Huh?
anesthesia.
Laika.
Laika was your name? Yes.
Leica, like the that's a famous. What is it? Leica's a brand of. It's famous. It's
It's a
something very
name.
expensive.
It's just a name.
Oh, it's a camera lens. Leica cameras. They're Leica
Oh,
cameras.
that's also
Special.
the name.
Very
Yeah.
expensive.
Anyway, so they sent this dog up. So the dog, I don't know if the dog realized the reason why it ultimately died. I'm not sure why it died. It could be blew up. I don't know.
Or just starved, wandering in space forever.
So let's say it starved. I'm assuming that it starved. It was just going in probably in orbit. Probably eventually. I don't think it's still around. Sputnik.
No, but orbits decay. I think it would fall back. I think.
Right. So anyway, whatever. That's just an example. But,
Yeah.
but theoretically speaking, or anyway, take a human also. You tell him, you just put him into space. He won't. A human could understand that the reason why I'm hungry is because I'm far from land, and land is where things grow and there's water. An animal maybe won't realize that. A fish has in its instinct that it doesn't want to leave the water because it knows fish never voluntarily leave the water.
You can't breathe anymore.
They can't breathe. So serving Hashem in a proper way means to realize, at least, there's a level that you don't feel yourself, but at least to feel that for you to exist, you must be connected to God. Like the famous story of Rabbi Akiva, when now we're in the days of the Sfira Seimer, which are connected to Rabbi Akiva and his students. So the famous story, which it's good to repeat, even though it's very famous, that Rabbi Akiva, the Roman government, outlawed studying Torah, and he went ahead and taught in hiding. And there was a gentleman His name was Papus Ben Yehuda. And he told Rabbi Akiva, why are you doing these dangerous things? You'll be caught.
Breaking the law.
You'll be caught. You'll be executed. The Romans were worse than the Russians.
Yeah. They still are.
Huh?
They're both bad.
I don't know if it's really Romans anymore, but
Did they skin him alive?
Yeah.
they combed his
Cuomo's
flesh.
a Roman.
Yeah?
The governor, I consider him a Roman. A little bit of it. Okay. Okay. Right. So
Talk politics. We
Right.
only talk ancient politics, not current.
okay.
Anyway,
I'll bring it up in 100 years.
So wait, so Rabbi Akiva, what are we saying about Rabbi Akiva?
He said, if you take me away from Torah, like a fish out of
so
water,
this gentleman, so he told
he's
him,
gonna die anyway.
he answered him, he told him a famous parable. Says the fox was hungry, so went to the fish and he told the fish, why? Look, you're in the water. There's these fishermen with the nets and they're trying to catch you. I'm a nice guy. Come to my cave, and you'll be free. I'll hide you. There won't be anyone chasing you. So they told him. They say you're the wisest of all animals. You're a fool. Here we have to run away from the fishermen. We could live if we come out. We're not going to live. Of course, we're not going to have to run away from the fishermen. You won't exist anymore. So the same thing. The Torah is our life. Now, if I might get caught, I might suffer from it. True, but if I don't have the Torah, I'm worse off. So that's the way we should strive to feel with Torah, with mitzvahs, with Hashem. That Hashem is our life. That's the fish.
Mm-hmm.
Animals, they don't feel that. They say you could send an animal to Sputnik. It's gonna around the world. They'll see the whole world. They'll feel very great. But over time, they'll realize that it needs to be close to the base. But that's how we usually perceive Hashem. We understand that we need God, but we don't feel it the way the fish feel the need for the water. So that's interesting that the angels are created on the same day as the fish and the fowl, which have these concepts that they feel God and they're striving to rise towards God. And man and animals were created on the sixth day, which is already created from the ground. But in any case, got a little carried away. Good things, but so that's that bonus that we get. Since we do it with our choice, we choose to follow this instinct and not the other instinct of the other soul. That's why we deserve that bonus. That we get that promotion on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So that's two important points. A third point is,
But if it's temporary, what does it do to us? That elevation.
for the soul derives great pleasure. Neshama, that being, it says that Shabbos is a day that everything is elevated, and even if we don't sense it, that's why Shabbos during the week to eat for pleasure is a sin. On Shabbos, eating for pleasure is a mitzvah.
Mm-hmm.
It says that in the times of the Mishnah, a little bit in the Talmud, when the Jews still practiced many mitzvahs that are connected to ritual purity and meiser, tithes from the grain. So there's this concept called Dmai. Dmai is fruits, produce that we're not sure if meiser was taken. So what does it mean? Why are we not sure? It says the person who says the meiser was taken is an Amoritz. Amoritz, now we call it someone who's ignoramus. Those days it was people that they were ignoramus, but many times by choice. In other words, it was people that didn't regard religion as importantly as it should be. They were Jews. Those days, not such a concept as a secular Jew, but they were not as religious by choice. Unlike these days that people don't know many times because they just don't grow up in that environment. Then the environment was that a Jew is religious, and there's people that were more, people that were less. So Demai means if someone who we don't see him practicing diligently these mitzvahs says, "Meiser was taken from this fruit," you don't know if to trust him or not, because so you trust someone who practices it. Mm-hmm. The same concept exists today. If I have if a person has a food business, when he's not Shomer Shabbos, you can't rely on him to say that it's kosher, because you're not you don't have both the knowledge and also the you're not trustworthy enough. You're not a practice. Unfortunately, we wish it was different. But till that happens, you can't trust the Jew. Till he chooses to go back to it. So it says, however, on Shabbos it says that you could trust him. If he says gives you something on Shabbos, says Meiser was taken. It says Amaretz does not lie on Shabbos. Why? Because the world is elevated. There's a famous story. They say that there was a big tzaddik called Rabbi of Ruzhin. When he was a young child, he was once taught a Mishnah in Tractate Shabbos, which is someone gets lost. He doesn't know when Shabbos is. What should he do? Basically, it's an argument whether he waits. He observes the day that he remembered that he doesn't know as Shabbos, and he counts 6 days, and the next day is Shabbos. Next is the 7th day, or he starts to count and then. So he says, I don't understand. You look at the sky; it's different on Shabbos. So some tzaddikim sense that, and others sense it in a what do you call it? In a subconscious way. That's why the Amaretz, he doesn't lie. He feels a certain kedusha, and that's why if we could try this at home, like they say, and in shul, Shabbos is a day that we are more spiritual. It's easier for a person to pray and study in a more connected way on Shabbos than the rest of the week. We also have more time, but besides for that, we also have more. Our souls are elevated, and although it doesn't last, after the next week we go back down to the regular. But we have that effect of Shabbos. It says Shabbos blesses the whole week, the coming week. It does help us go higher and higher. You don't stay on that level. You go back down, but you're a drop higher than the week before. If only you just tap into that power that you're given. It's like someone who's invited into the king for a short period of time, but when he's there, he could accomplish great things that will last him also when he has to return to his regular natural place. So
everything we count is till Shabbat.
Right.
Yeah, everything revolves around the Shabbat.
A third point, which is mentioned over here, as we spoke about neshamas, souls, and malachim of different worlds, meaning that they have a different level of understanding of Hashem. So we spoke about the intellectual love, the world of Bria, the emotional emotions, let's call it the world of Yitzira, and the more practical, the emotions which are not focused more so much on emotion, rather on motivation, getting you to do it, not so much about feeling it. Which is a lower level. Obviously, motivation is an emotion, but it's an emotion which is connected to a very specific goal, which is just to get you to do things.
Very important.
It is important.
You won't do it if it's not.
Right, but it's not a fully developed emotion. It's a basic emotion. It's like someone who's just shopping for his wife. He doesn't necessarily feel great love when he's shopping, but the reason why he does it is because he does appreciate his wife, or the other way around, or his parents, or parents of the children. So you have enough love to get you to do acts of service. Then there's times that you feel the love. That's all natural. And you don't have isn't much of an intellectual aspect over here. So there's love of Hashem, which you created within yourself, which wasn't there before. There's love which is uncovering the natural love, and there's a love to Hashem which gets you, is enough to motivate you to do mitzvahs. There's the fourth world, the world of Atzilus. Where does that come from? It says that is not really a feeling of love or fear. There are tzaddikim that have a soul of Atzilus. We're talking about not even regular tzaddikim. We're talking about great tzaddikim, the Avos, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moshe Rabbeinu of every generation. These are tzaddikim that have a soul of Atzilus. The experience of a soul of Atzilus is something that we cannot really understand or even imagine. We could just describe, which means, in other words, like a fish. The fish in the water. We said there's human neshamas and there's animal neshamas. So it says, the prophet says, I will plant the house of Israel with a plant of a seed of human and a seed of animals. It's like a fish in the water. That's what it means to have a soul of Atzilus. You could live in this world surrounded, but you look at the world in a whole different way because you don't really feel yourself well, it's called, we said it's the level of the Merkava, like a chariot, like a car, which doesn't have a mind of its own. All it is just to serve Hashem. Obviously, there are levels within that, but that's the concept. It's not that you have to, it's not even a struggle, it's just, Hashem is the only thing in this person's life. He doesn't really see himself as having his own life. That's why it says that Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, when he was in the cave for 13 years, he didn't do many mitzvahs. He didn't have tefillin, he didn't have matzah, it says all he ate was carobs and water. Kiddush, he didn't, many lulav, sukkah, he didn't have, now halachically he was exempt because it was pikuach nefesh. You ask, why would Hashem make a tzaddik like Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai be in a position that halachically is exempt from doing mitzvahs? So the explanation is, this also comes from discourse of the Baal Tanya in a different book, not in the Tanya itself, that he was what's called, his neshama was a fish of the water. So that tzaddikim had a lot of kavanah, the Baal Shem Tov and his students, and the Maggid and his students, in the custom of eating fish on Shabbos. It says souls of tzaddikim, they come down and fish. That tzaddikim and fish have this idea in common, that their source of life is God. So Rashbi was not so much a soul that had its chief mission was not to refine the world. It was more of a spiritual kind of tzaddik, and that's why it was okay for him that it didn't really affect him in a negative way that he was unable to do these physical mitzvahs for a long period. Of course, when he was able, he definitely did them, but it doesn't attest that he was not brought, he didn't accomplish, that wasn't his main goal in life. His main goal in life was to connect to God in the spiritual way.
Was he there with his son or no?
And his son. Yeah. That's what it says. He said, I see Bnei Aliyah, we learned this earlier in the Tanya. They're great people. And they're very few. If it's one, it's me. If it's two, it's me and my son, he said. About himself. You'd call this arrogance, but if you know who Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was, what kind of life he had, it's not, he was just speaking the truth. And as we see it from his teachings, that we barely understand a bit of it. We have hundreds of books, thousands of books explaining, trying to bring down to understanding the great secrets of the Zohar. There's an interesting tradition that says that Rabbi wrote a book that had a letter. 22 books. Each one started with a letter of Aleph, the book of light, Orah, the book of blessing. And the only one that made it to us is the book of Zohar. In other words, what we have of Rabbi Shimon is much less than he actually taught. What was revealed to us. You can imagine, what kind of... it's a whole different type of life. It's not a life that you deal with the mundane. It says that he actually had to adjust when he came back out of the cave, right? The Gemara says the story, how he came out of the cave, and when he saw people being involved in business and working, plowing the fields and sowing the fields, he didn't understand how people could put aside the eternal life and spend time on temporary life. So wherever he looked, where him and his son, wherever they looked,
it would burn.
It would get destroyed, because what does it mean that he didn't understand how this is possible. Because he was now for 12 years actually of his life in that mode of living a spiritual life. He didn't appreciate the need for lower people to engage in bringing God into the world. So that's why Hashem told him, "You got to go back. You're not yet ready."
I thought it was his wife that said. Didn't somebody his wife?
No,
I thought that Rabbi Akiva, that he saw his wife, she didn't recognize him, let him go back for another 7 years or something.
That's a different story. It's Rabbi Akiva.
Is that who we're talking about?
No, Rabbi Shimon.
Oh, Shimon bar Yochai.
It was Rabbi Akiva's
Right, Rabbi Akiva. I'm sorry. Okay.
So he was sent back to the cave so he could adjust to bringing his great spirit into a world of matter. When they came out, his son still was not able to. He didn't really develop that trait, so he kept destroying. But Rashbi was able to heal any place that he destroyed, and it took him a while till he adjusted himself to this world. So we're talking about a whole different type of experience of the world. And that's the souls of Atzilus. Souls of Atzilus, they don't have to fly up. They are walking islands of godliness in this world, if you could say that way. Other tzaddikim, people, even tzaddikim, they have to elevate themselves. They just have, some of them reach higher levels, some of them even higher. These neshamas, they come down to the world with a mission. They're born tzaddikim. It's not like it's not a tzaddik. They don't have to really work on themselves to become. They're a different type of person. They're here. Hashem sends them down to keep the world in touch. When we are connected to tzaddikim, we could get inspiration and energy to do our job in the lower world. So these tzaddikim, they're not really loving God, and they're not flying up. They're already there. That's called the level of merkava.
Redemption.
Merkava. Merkava means a
chariot.
chariot.
Chariot, right.
Chariot. Now we could also, at times, we could experience moments of that feeling, but that's not a regular thing. The Alter says when we bow, when we Shemona Esrei, we could sometimes, obviously, a person has to prepare himself, and you could feel those moments where Hashem is everything, but it's not. You can't live a whole life that way. You're not made for that. Okay, so now we're speaking a lot about serving God with love and fear, and all the merits, and we're going to learn later on how you attain that love and fear. What happens if you serve God without love and fear? None at all. So, that's what we said. Serving Hashem without love and fear is like a bird that has broken wings. Now, interesting to note, the author points this out, there's halacha that says, that for animal to be allowed to be consumed, kosher, has to be healthy. Meaning it has no
defects,
doesn't have any physical, any could have
no
defects.
blemishes.
No blemish, no, that's for a carbon. But animal, to be kosher, to eat, if it has a blemish, is about, I think, 82 or something.
Wow, that's a lot.
Trephis.
82 what?
Types of trephis. Trephis means things that
the
animal would not survive the year. The way the rabbis, it's not that sometimes the animal could survive more than a year, but that's the halacha. Usually it won't survive. Sometimes there's the other way around, but it means that at least from the perspective of halacha, that's the way it is. It's not anything that animal will die right away. Like an animal could die in 3 months and it's still kosher, and it could live 6 years after and still be treif. But the Chazal say that's the sign that they gave. Usually, most of these things, and that's the halacha when you buy meat. You don't know kosher meat goes through shchita, and there's a lot of checking that has to be done.
That's why glad is so much more important.
That's glad. Glad is
expensive.
extra kosher. Even basic kosher. Not everything is kosher. So it says that if a bird is missing its wings, what do you think? Oh, is it kosher or not kosher?
Probably unkosher.
No, it's kosher.
Oh,
It is kosher.
How would the
Let's
wings,
translate this.
the wings removed? How were the wings removed? Was it born
No, it was born
wings?
without them?
They're born or was broken off.
Doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make a difference.
They could be healthy without wings.
Huh?
They can be healthy.
That's right.
Human
They can be
beings-
healthy, but they can't fly.
Right.
And that's that concept that let's translate it to this idea. Mitzvahs without love and fear. They're mitzvahs. They can't fly. They can't go up. They're mitzvahs, and they accomplished. It's not the person shouldn't say, if I don't love him, I don't have kavanah, I shouldn't do mitzvahs. Do it because first of all, ultimately you'll get there. You fake it till you make it, like they say. Secondly, it's not really faking it. It's just not the best way to do it, but it's better than nothing. And it's like the halach is. It's still a kosher mitzvah. So there's two kinds of. So this is what's called the famous concept in Judaism, not just the Chassidus. It comes from halacha and Musar, serving Hashem lishma and shaloi lishma. For the sake of heaven or not for the sake of heaven. So we spoke about till now lishma, which has many levels, but the most basic level is that, at least in your mind, you're thinking when you're doing a mitzvah, I'm doing it to serve God. We have the furthest extreme, which is you're doing it not for the sake of heaven. Not only it's not for the sake of heaven, you're doing it for the sake of something else with an ulterior motive. Like someone learns Torah because he knows that rabbis get paid well, which is not true. But let's say it was true, or maybe true in some places.
Reform.
Huh?
Reform.
I just saw a joke today. It's called, it says you're not allowed to, litzanus, joking is not a encouraged trait, but only of a desire it's okay. So about Reform rabbis, I think you can make a joke. So the joke goes like this. Let's try to remember. I'm saying you're right. Give me a second. Oh, how do you know that a Reform rabbi is better paid than a Catholic priest? Huh? Because if it was the other way around, he would become a Catholic priest.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh man, there's different levels that are sinking in. I was at a bar mitzvah at the Park Avenue Synagogue. My cousin's son was bar mitzvah, and I didn't recognize the service because right after the service was over, everyone went to a party, and it seemed like, I don't know what it seemed like, but the rabbis didn't come to the party.
Okay.
It was just, some rap singers would sing the songs.
Is it Shabbos?
Yeah, it was you said it after Havdalah.
Oh, okay.
And it just
after Shabbos.
Well, right after it started,
Okay.
and then with
Well, at least the bar mitzvah itself was kosher.
I don't know, because at the bima, these women came out and were singing on the bima. These 8-9 women
So maybe,
called the Shabbos Mamas. And
is there a Reform place or a
he said, I didn't want to ask the rabbi. It was either Reform, Reconstructionist, or maybe even
unorthodox?
or something else. I don't know what the words they have, but I didn't want to ask.
You're allowed to have Brit Milah on Shabbat, no?
If it's on time, you're not only
If it's
allowed
on
to,
time.
you must.
It's
Yeah.
It's encouraged. You have
Yeah.
That's the way you do it. It's the halacha. In any case,
Okay, I don't know what they were
so we're talking about someone. Now this is not. God forbid, the Reform rabbi is not even someone that's doing mitzvahs shaloi l'shma. Talking about someone who he wants to be an Orthodox rabbi, or he wants to get honor from the Torah, wisdom. It sharpens his brain, like people like to say, or he. There's people that there's a story that the previous Rebbe writes about a very long story, but in short, about a person who his father was a religious Jew, but he left at Kabbalah. He didn't respect Kabbalah, and his son, when it became worse, his son was a big Talmud Chacham, but he went away from Yiddishkeit, but he still enjoyed studying, and he would learn Gemara without a yarmulke on his head. He wouldn't keep Shabbos, not kashrus. He had a non-Jewish wife, but he learned Gemara. It means he's learning it for a different reason.
like a secular way, like
learning it,
college.
whatever,
studies or
for his own pleasure.
Yeah.
So someone who learns Torah, in that type of sense, he wants it for something else. So that's called learning. That's the further extreme. That's doing mitzvahs for a wrong reason. Then there's a middle. Shaloi l'shma, not for the sake of God. What does that mean? It's called out of habit. Mitzvahs anashim milumada. People behave in a religious way. It happens. We're all like that. Some more, some less, but we all have those areas that even Bali Tshuva, at a certain point, they get used to it. They say, how do you know that a Bal Tshuva is really decided that he's staying religious? Is when he starts to talk in shul. As long as he's not talking in shul, he's still on that high. He's excited, and he gets used to Judaism. It becomes his lifestyle, which obviously has its merits, but it's also unfortunate that the sign that that you really became part of the community, and you're not planning to leave anytime soon, is that you get a little. What's the word for it?
Too comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Too comfortable enough that you don't feel the godliness of it. So it doesn't matter if you're about tshuva or you're from birth, like they say. You get used to certain things, and you do it out of habit. So when you're putting on tefillin, you go to shul, you keep Shabbos, and you do it all right. Sometimes if you don't learn, you don't make a point to study and know. He'll make mistakes. But let's say even a person knows and he got good education and he's doing it all and he knows it all, but he doesn't pay attention to do things, to realize I'm doing the mitzvah as an act which connects me to God. And in this case, even if a person serves God to get spiritual reward, or even physical reward, but reward from God, not from other people. Right? So doing it, just make this distinction. Doing it because I'm going to get a better paycheck, studying, that's bad.
It's L'Shem Shemaim it needs to be.
That's called L'Shem something else. Then L'Shem Shemaim could even mean that I'm doing it because I know that God rewards and I want God's reward. That's still called L'Shem Shemaim. It's a lower form of L'Shem Shemaim, but you're doing the mitzvah, you know what you're doing, you know why you're doing it, you know you're doing it as a mitzvah, and you're hoping to get rewarded from God. That's okay.
It's not ulterior motive?
No, because it's not. You realize that the reward is going to come from God. So it is an ulterior motive if you go a little deeper into it. But as long as you realize that someone who does that really believes in God. Definitely, if you want spiritual reward, Gan Eden, and even if you want physical reward in this world, but he says, if I'm going to do more mitzvahs, give more tzedakah, God will make me rich, God will make me successful. That's good, because at the end of the day, it's keeping you in touch with God. Some people, what connects them to God is the spirit, is the spiritual greatness of the mitzvah. Some people, it's the fact that they realize that God is the source of also physical. But either way, you're in a relationship with Hashem, and that's good. Someone who learns Torah to get money from someone else is in a relationship with someone else, not with Hashem. Then he's using the Torah wrongly. That's called an ulterior motive in the negative sense. So that's the middle class. Now, since at the end of the day a person is doing it, you ask him, why are you putting on tefillin? So he knows that I'm putting on tefillin because it's a mitzvah. Does he think every day, do I think every day when I'm putting on tefillin that I'm doing it to connect to God? No, but if you ask me, why do you do this? I'm a religious Jew. This is the God that I serve, and this is what I'm doing. So in the core of this mitzvah, there lies a connection to God. It's just that it's in a subconscious way, but it's there. Unlike someone who's doing it for something else, he's consciously doing the mitzvah not as an act that connects him to God. He's doing it just a way to make money. If a person learns Torah and gets a few dollars from people because of it, it's okay. But if that's the reason why he's doing it, that's when it's problematic. So in that case, the mitzvahs are not. It says sometimes a person could learn Torah and it becomes poison for him. If a person learns Torah in such a way,
he's not learning it for a genuine reason.
If he's learning it for an ungenuine reason, if a person learns stam, it's called, he just learns because a Jew learns. He has a chavrusa and he learns. Then, in that case, it's called shaloi lishma. However, there is in the core of that mitzvah, there is still a subconscious knowledge that I'm doing this because this is what a Jew does. A Jew connects to God through mitzvahs. He's not always aware of it in a conscious way, but subconsciously it's there. That's why he leads a religious life. Or if someone doesn't have fully religious life, but he does certain mitzvahs because he knows this connects him to Hashem. So in that case, this mitzvah doesn't fly up. However, since at the core of it, there is a godly conscience, therefore the Alter Rebbe says there's a special trick that you could do. And this trick could be used also we could choose to use it. In other words, not always someone wants to daven with kavanah now it takes to daven with kavanah takes sometimes for regular people at work. They don't have the 2 hours dedicated for davening every day. They have an hour. The minyan davens a certain speed. So what do? So first, the secret behind this trick is that since the mitzvah is done generally with the right approach, although not consciously, so when you do the mitzvah consciously with kavanah, it pulls along with it all the mitzvahs that were done with the subconscious kavanah. Once the kavanah becomes conscious, it kind of wakes it up in all of them. And they all fly up. They all become elevated. A similar concept along the line.
All the mitzvot, or what?
I davened every day. Yeah. Most of the week I was davening without kavanah, but I davened because I'm a Jew. And a Jew davens. And then on Shabbos I had more time and I had kavanah. So not only what I did on Shabbos goes up, has the wings. It kind of awakens the wings of the rest of the davening. Because at their core they were done with the proper
There's a name for that.
Subconscious
that effect.
kavanah.
There's a name. What does they call that? That effect when everything mixes
Domino
together.
effect.
No. That it ends up
Ripple
being,
effect.
No, it's because it ends up being superior the way it all comes together.
Synergistic.
Yeah, synergy.
One plus one
Yeah,
is three.
synergistic.
Alright, interesting.
Synergy.
Synergy, okay.
One plus
Yeah,
one is
synergistic.
three.
So spiritual synergy happens. We do one mitzvah with the proper kavanah, all the other
Thank
mitzvahs
you.
that you
Yeah,
did
synergy.
without kavanah go up. The mitzvahs that you did with the wrong kavanah, for that you have to do tshuva. Person does tshuva, also those mitzvahs could go up.
There's a wrong kavanah.
Like I said, for an ulterior motive.
Someone can say,
For honor, for money.
Right.
So those mitzvahs were done in sin, in a sense. So, although they were mitzvahs, and when you do tshuva, it will go up,
they
but it
can-
doesn't just go up. It doesn't fly up when you do a mitzvah with kavanah.
Right.
And the same person person who's not yet doesn't have the time or the capacity to do every mitzvah with kavanah. He should do so the trick it's a trick. The Alter Rebbe tells us later on. I don't think it's in this chapter
they can-
that you daven every day a portion of the davening with kavanah. On Sunday you daven the first page, on Monday the second page, and that way your davening will all go up. Why? Because part of it was done with kavanah. The rest was done in a more superficial way. But part of it was done with kavanah. It lifts it up. So
even a little piece is enough.
right, now, what happens if a person is in a situation where he's learning Torah for an ulterior motive? Should we discourage him? Should we tell him stop studying?
No, never.
The truth is that even it's a mitzvah. It says a person should do mitzvah shaloi lishma because it brings him eventually to do it lishma, do it for the proper, and it may happen in this gilgul or another gilgul, but at the end of the day, since it's a holy act, it's a holy thing, it's never going to become part of the klipat avera. You have to do tshuva to elevate it, but it's good. You're accomplishing something.
Even though it's praying without kavanah?
Even though we're talking about you're doing it with a wrong
Ulterior
kavanah.
motive.
Without a kavanah, one time you pray with kavanah, it lifts it up.
Right.
If you're doing it with an ulterior motive, all right. So, yalla. All right. We continued.
What happens if someone is very sick, or they believe that they might be very sick? So then they use extra kavanah. Can they be punished while they were healthy if they just davened in a